Welcome to JRL Studio Creations. Today I'd like to show you how I made this beautiful Nautilus shell cup. Let's get started. Many years ago I got a Nautilus shell and I had all this stuff laying around and I was always afraid of making a mistake in making this thing. And so finally I was just like, I just gotta do it and see how it turns out. So one of the first things that I did is I actually found two candlesticks and a doorknob. And I thought, well, if I just solder all these together, maybe that would make a really good stand for this Nautilus shell. So I did it. I put some flux on the doorknob and some solder, and I did both of them with the solder on them first, then placed them together. It also was kind of nice because I could unscrew it and put it back together again, and this made it a lot more easy to be able to work with throughout all this process. I was surprised if when I took different things and added them together, they looked totally different. Once I cleaned it up a little bit, that made it better for soldering, for putting on more things than that. I could tell that it looked a lot more like the candlestick still, so I wanted to add a little bit of fringe, if you could. Fringe, yeah. So I actually made it. This was a bracelet I had made in the past, and I was like, well, let's make it again and make a few more links in it. So this is how I made it. I took this pin that I had created, and then folded it in half, and then I curled up the ends, and that was how I was able to make this really cool bracelet. But also, in this case, it made the fringe that could wrap around things. That's one link, and that's how I did all the other links. Once I also had it to the length that I wanted, I put another pin in it, and then I again started the process of making one more link. Again, this was the length of the base. I was thinking, well, I can make this one, and then I could also make one possibly for the top of the doorknob area. And again, just curl the edges up right here, and then it can be able to make a really nice doorknob. In this footage, I was double checking to make sure it was the right size. Yeah, so curl the edges, and then it makes a really cool actually bracelet. In fact, and these you could do this very thing and make your own bracelet too. Anyways, so this is what I did. I cleaned it up and made sure that there was no oils on the hands, because oils, when they touch on any of the bracelet sort of thing, they won't want to stick with the flux. Also, this is kind of cool. I used an old pan that was an aluminum pan, and it helped so that I could be able to solder this to the brass, and this was brass and copper. But it also didn't solder to the pan itself because it's made out of aluminum, and aluminum oxidizes, which means it doesn't stick, which is kind of nice. So it turned out pretty good, and I was like, okay, now I got to work on the shell. So yeah, I had taken a doorknob and I made an indent in it, and I thought that if I used some things on the sides, it could help hold it in place. But before that, I had to fix this Nautilus shell cup. I had gotten it many years ago and it was broken, and so this is another reason why I prolonged actually doing this project. But anyways, I took some aluminum foil tape and placed it over the hole itself, and then took some shavings of the side of the shell and packed it in real tight in that little teeny area and went flat. Then just used some super glue and went over the top of that, and this is crazy because I went oh with my thumb and it was felt so awful. But when I peeled it back and I put some more super glue on the other side, it turned out really good, and I was really surprised that it looked so much like the shell itself. Then I took the time to be able to make it very level, so I put it upside down to help it to be level and set the different things in place with a little bit of tape underneath, and then soldered it, making sure that everything was in the right spot. This was really challenging to get all the different things in the right spot, and I had to bend it. But once I set it on there, I was so surprised at how nicely it fit together. Yeah, these little side pieces were actually from an old belt. Yeah, and this is also a really good way of leveling things. I used a level to make things everything level and really straight. I also noticed too that the the base of it just needed something. So I was like, well, if I take some rings and put them together and put it on there, it'll help it to kind of not look so much like a candlestick. So after I did that, I soldered them in place and then cleaned it up, and it looked a lot better, I think, the base, from all the different fringe that I put on it. I wanted this to look really, really ornate, and so I had purchased a whole bunch of just little rings. They were gold plated, but also they were just, I think, silver, but surprisingly inexpensive. Anyway, so I would cut them and open them up and shape them into the different areas that I wanted on the shell. These two I had made in the past. I'd actually done 3 different ones in the past, and so I wasn't able to get those processes on camera. But yeah, I just started finding different scrap pieces and drilling them out. And this little piece that I had just drilled out said Monet on it, so I hope that that wasn't actually an expensive thing. I just had a whole bunch of scrap little jewelry things. Anyways, made a gem setting thing and put a gemstone in it. These were actually just glass gemstones, I think. Maybe. Who knows? Anyways, put them together and found different areas to put them in. This little swirl in the shell I really liked, and so I was like, let's highlight that. Then I was like, how am I gonna attach this? So I started making a cut in the side of this top piece, and then I curled the edges to be able to make pretty much a saddle that would be able to sit on the top. And I was thinking, well, if I just add some links, maybe, to the front and back, as well as the sides on the bottom, then I can be able to at least hook things up to it. And that's what I did. It was really cool as I started doing this process. I really liked just being able to figure out how to make things work on this. And it was really fun. Um, I was really worried about also soldering right to the shell because it could actually break. So I was just finding different pieces and setting them in place. But I found out that if I used a little iron or soldering stick handheld thing, I could be able to put all these different links together on the shell itself because it was very poignant, or very I could get very pointed things in there. Also, look at that. All my hair's falling out because I was working so hard on this, and I kept on getting it out of focus. But it made this beautiful saddle piece, and it was just so cool. Anyways, I was like, okay, gotta connect these to the side pieces I already have on the sides. So I connected those with links and just made those little pieces to the right size and put it on and connected it, and voila, it looks so pretty. Look at that. Isn't that so cool? All right, so I was like, well, let's do another ring. And this is the process that I normally did. I just would take it, cut it open, the ring itself, and bend it out. I found that these rings were size 10 rings. It was the biggest I could get, but they were the same price as the other rings. And so I was like, well, I get more, well, silver and gold, I guess. Bang for a buck. Just soldered things together. Yeah, soldered the rings and soldered things. One of the things I don't really show so much on this is how much I cleaned up everything. You really, really have to have it clean or it doesn't want to solder. Yeah, and I used rubbing alcohol to clean up things, and still wool, and that really made things exciting. Also, I got a little overzealous right here, and I was like, oh, this is so exciting as I started to get the right shape to everything. And I started putting gems in place ahead of time before the soldering was done, and that wasn't the best idea. But I was just so excited. By far, the biggest challenge of all of this, I'd have to say, is getting it all to the right shape. It might look like it just fits in perfectly, but it took so much shaping to be able to get that correct, to be able to sit in really nicely. Added some links on the doorknob and all the different pieces. Again, another challenge with this was actually soldering things without other parts falling out of place. And that was a real challenge. But anyways, I finally got it in place, cleaned up everything really, really well with rubbing alcohol and a steel wool, and then glued it with E6000. E6000 is a really good glue for gem setting. It can be able to hold gems in place, and also I was thinking with the shell as well as the metal, it'll hold it perfectly. Also, these were just little links right here. I had all these links that I just tied together and put 2 1 2 1 2 1 and put the two over the edges of the sides of it, and the one just held them together. And then glued that in place, and it turned out really beautiful for this little edge right here and right here. But I wasn't done yet, so I was like, okay, what do I need to do next? I need to do the back. But also I was like, okay, let's do the back. And then I was like, nope, I'm gonna put in tons of gems because it was starting to look so beautiful, and I got distracted and I was like, okay, I'm gonna put in gems because I'm so excited. So I put in gems and more gems, and then I was like, okay, time to do the back. I gotta squish this piece and get it flat. That was actually really challenging. You had to squish it in a way that it didn't deform the actual ring itself. Each one of these rings is different, which made it a little bit more challenging for each thing. Actually, added some hands to this one, for instance, because it needed something to be able to hold um, a little heart I wanted to add at the end. But anyway, so I stuck this on here, made sure it was the right shape, made sure it didn't deform too much, and I was like, okay, I'll add another one, and I'll hide the seams with a gem. I'd make little teeny, well, here's me cutting it and squishing it flat. Very, very challenging. A lot of the time I'd use wood, and then on the back of it I wasn't afraid to use metal, but I'd use this wood so it didn't deform the actual kind of sculpture on the ring itself. Yeah, so here's me just putting in place, reforming it each time so it fit exactly and perfectly to the thing itself, and then I'd cut any excess off and then solder it together with it in place. A lot of the time when I'd solder, I'd heat the really thick areas first, and then it would just kind of spread and then suck in all of the flux as well as the solder itself. And then I used a pin here and put it right here, and I was so pleased that it fit perfectly. Cleaned it all up and actually used a soldering iron itself to end the E6000. This was challenging because I had to do, sorry, I'm everywhere with this. But I had to glue this in place while soldering it to the top because I had glued the top, which should have waited, but I had glued it in place. So I soldered it in place as well while gluing it and set the gems. Yeah, sometimes I'd hold it with like a tissue so it didn't get too hot, and other times with gloves. All right, so here's me soldering it, and then cleaned it all up again, and I used the little rings to be able to just kind of use them as gem setting things as well. Anyways, uh, I had to mirror image each side. I love this shot. This shot is kind of cool because it has that little glare of the light and really quite beautiful. Anyways, let's keep going. It's hard to put into words how much work actually went into this. It's in fast motion, but also it was so delicate and you had to be so careful because you didn't want to break or shatter the shell itself while also making sure to put everything in place. When you glue things in place and you use heat, it makes the gems so they could shatter. So I had to be really careful after I had added all the gems to not break things. And then also mirroring the look of different sides, but at the same time, they were so individual and different because they were different rings. So it was a little bit of a challenge, but really, really fun and exciting at the same time. Right here, I started gluing on pearls, and honestly, I actually didn't have real pearls. So I used pin heads and cut off the little pin part and then just glued them in place. Um, I think for the longest time I was just afraid of making this because I was like, well, I don't have all the different things that would be really expensive and beautiful to put on it. But honestly, I think it was just good that I finally just did it. That I finally put everything together, and I also made a little heart and hung it on the back. And I thought that was just really cute to be able to bring everything together. So this is how it turned out after I put everything together, and it is a beautiful shell cut. Also, I wanted to be able to show you up close how it looked with just all the different rings. So right here, I'm just going to show you. Here's that's not a butt, that's a back. of a guy that's kissing a lady. Anyways, but that's a butt. Excuse me. Sorry. Yeah. Um, yeah, I loved how the gems set in place, and I really liked the color of the pearl with the green and red. These gems were, I believe, glass. That was just cut glass, but and so it looks really expensive, and it took a lot of work to be able to make it look like this. Also, there's a little heart on the tip of the cup, but I can't really see it right now. But it's behind this lady, almost like a guarded heart, of you know. Anyways, but yeah, so I loved the look of the red and green and pearl. But yeah, it turned out really beautiful. There's actually a diamond on the front part of it right there as well. Yeah, and those are little side um, stirrups, I guess you could say, were also little diamonds. Anyways, I wanted to thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really enjoyed doing this, and so thank you for watching. Feel free to subscribe, like, comment, and share, and don't forget, you're awesome. Have a great day.